What's up, guys? So I just saw a post on Facebook from a particular individual who is leading the crusade, and yes, I call it a crusade, leading the crusade in the argument against something called clear cooperation. So what is clear cooperation? Let's look at that first. So I will link it, but directly from the NAR website, it says here, clear cooperation within 1 business day of publicly marketing a property. It says word for word. Within 1 business day of marketing a property to the public, the listing broker must submit the listing to the MLS for cooperation with other MLS participants. Public marketing includes, but is not limited to, flyers displayed in windows, yard signs, digital marketing on public-facing websites, brokerage website displays, multi-brokerage listing sharing sites, and applications available to the general public. Note, exclusive listing information for required property types must be filed and distributed to other MLS participants for cooperation under the Clear Cooperation Policy. So the person that's running this crusade right now actually just posted, and I screenshot it here. It says, no agent should be told by Zillow or an MLS how they should work, and their clients shouldn't be limited in when, where, and how to market their home. The reality is the intention of the listing ban, the Zillow ban, and the MLS listing policies is control. The purpose of control is to get the homeowner's listing from the agents for free and to monetize those listings on their platform. And the mechanism for control is banning and fining agents that market off their platforms. Okay. This couldn't be further from the truth. And I'm going to just be really blunt right now and say, this is not trying to control. I mean, in a way, yes, it is, but here's why. And it's a very simple reason. It's called the Fair Housing Act of 1968. The Fair Housing Act of 1968 implemented the 7 protected classes. These are race, religion, ethnicity, familial status, etc. These are the fundamentals that housing is for everyone. Now, the individual from the screenshot that I just read to you about Zillow banning listings here's why, because that individual has spearheaded a campaign against clear cooperation. Clear cooperation is a rule that the National Association of Realtors put into place so that realtors would stop hiding listings, so that realtors would make sure that all available properties are available to all available buyers, and vice versa. All available buyers have access to all available properties. Now, before you go screaming in the comments about, oh, well, my seller doesn't want it in the MLS, I'm not here to argue with you. What I'm here to argue about is the narrative that these things are trying to control how a realtor works. Well, yes, it is, because that is what was put into place in the Fair Housing Act of 1968. When I got licensed in 1998, and since then, I have to take continuing education classes every 2 years. And in those every 2 years, I have to take a fair housing class. And in that fair housing class, there is inevitably a colleague asking questions how they can basically break the rules of fair housing. It's wrong. It's just wrong. All available homes should be available to all available buyers. In certain tiny, rare circumstances, and the only one I ever heard of was a situation where it was a well-known actress who had a beautiful home, and she did not want the paparazzi to hound her while she was there. So she did ask her realtor not to put it into the MLS, so that then in that case, the realtor was to market the home with private networking. When that actress left and went to Europe to film her next movie, she said, go ahead and put it in the MLS. When you do not expose your home, now I'm talking to home sellers, when you do not expose your home to the entire open public market, you do not know if you've ever actually gotten the best contract, the best deal for you. You don't know. You will never know. Now, you may get a deal that is good for you, but you won't know if you could have gotten something better. And in the same vein, the words private exclusive are 2 words that are literally banned in the use of the 1968 Fair Housing Act. This is why the MLSs became the fair housing police, to make sure that real estate agents were not putting listings out there without it being available to everyone. Now, you might say to me, well, what about homeowner choice? No, homeowners don't have a choice. I'm sorry. They don't. It's that simple. The Fair Housing Act says if you use a real estate agent, which we adhere to fair housing laws, this isn't even NAR, the National Association of Realtors. This is fair housing laws that say we will make available all properties to everyone. And the MLSs became the policing because realtors would use non-inclusive language, or they would fine us if we did something wrong that violated a fair housing rule. The thing is, this whole conversation is complicated. And I recently sat down with a home seller, and now that this conversation is in play, and I actually work for the company that is spearheading this crusade, and I am not in support of it. However, I sat down, and the amount of paperwork that I had to review and explain about putting it on the MLS versus not putting it on the MLS, that my company is now forcing me to, that's what they're forcing me to do, is now explain to the consumer, well, you don't have to put it on the MLS, but you really should put it on the MLS because that's really the only way. If we market it to the entire buyer pool, then we will know if we got the best offer for their circumstances. And the amount of things that are contradictory that my client had to sign an initial, and she just looked at me. She's like 82 years old. And she just looked at me. She goes, I just want to put it in the MLS and I just want this to be easy. And I'm like, I know, I'm really sorry. So the problem is they're making it more complicated for home sellers. Listings that are not put in the MLS look like a realtor is trying to hold it, right? That does not do a home seller any good. And this idea that Zillow and the portals, what we call them, Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, Redfin, Compass, Coldwell Banker, whatever, that everybody is trying to get our information for free and then resell it to us. There is a tiny truth to that. However, it is not about control. That control was given up with the advent of the internet back in the late 90s and early 2000s when Zillow came on the scene. Zillow came on the scene in 2008. And you know what? Zillow just marketed homes better. They just did a good job. And you know what? The consumers liked it. And so therefore, Zillow said, hey, we'll sell you these leads, because they were getting the leads when the other real estate portals were not capturing the leads. And so this is to no fault of our own that, first off, we can't help evolution with technology. The listings are going to go somewhere. They're going to go out there because the internet is where everything is. And most homeowners want to know that their home is going on the internet. They want it on the internet because that's how they know it is exposed to the broadest number of buyers in the area. So they want it to go on the internet. And now, because of the company that is spearheading this conversation that clear cooperation is bad, and if you utilize their three-phased marketing system and don't put the property into the MLS right away, then Zillow is saying, well, we're not going to put it on Zillow at all. Now, that's just fighting fire with fire. It's just, hey, Zillow is pro clear cooperation, not because they want to keep the control of the listings. And you know what? Maybe it is. And you know what? I don't really care, because listings belong in the public eye for all home buyers to see. So here's the thing. If you want to work with me as a realtor, I'm going to put your home into the MLS and I'm going to expose it to everyone. I'm not going to hold it back. I'm not going to do any of this private exclusive stuff, which is a fair housing violation. Period. End of story. I believe that all homes should be available to all available buyers, and all buyers should be able to have access to all available homes.